Okay, so last Monday we discussed about uh, the whole picture of classical mechanics, and then we also discussed the concept of scalar. Okay, so ang scalar, so ang main nga definition sa scalar is scalar is invariant under coordinate transformation. So maski bali-balihon nimo, maski change mo ang coordinate system nimo, scalar must be the same. Unlike sa vector, si vector kay when you change the coordinate system, vector quantity will change. Okay? So muna ingon na ako last time, na question last time na uh, what am I with respect to rectangular coordinates, unsa pug ko with respect to spherical coordinates and cylindrical coordinates. And I think in mathematical physics, I think matakol ninyo how will you transform rectangular coordinates to cylindrical coordinates to spherical coordinates. So naanay sila relationship ang tulo. Okay? So kanilang no, vector quantity is kaning mag-vary siya under coordinate transformation. So mura ang point. So we will now go to this topic, the coordinate transformation. Transformation. So consider this point. Consider a point P. Okay, a point P. Say in different coordinate systems. Okay, so nakoy duha lang no, duha lang akong gamiton nga coordinate system. So consider si point P. So kung ikaw point P in 3 dimension, na siya coordinates nga x, y, z, right? Depende sa imong coordinate, say in rectangular coordinate system, you can write point P as x, y, point x, y, and z. Pero kami, we have a point P in different coordinate systems. Say we have two coordinate systems here. Din ako i-draw. Ato lang okay. So, okay, sorry. Ang ako ang duha ka coordinate system ani is dili siya katong spherical o cylindrical, but some ang isa kay igora nimo gi-rotate, no? So I have this figure here. I have two coordinate system here. Okay, nakoy point P, no? Lang point P na ko ni gali. Point P is this. This is my point P. So I have point P kaning red nga dot. And then I also have gibutang nimo si point P in this two coordinate systems. Man akong duha ka coordinate system ani. Kani this is my x1, x2 coordinate system. Kani x1, x2 coordinate system. So I call this one as x1, x2 coordinate system. Ang isa kay na ako'y x1 prime ug na ako'y x2 prime. So na ako'y duha ka coordinate system, no? In 2 dimension lang sana isa kay maglisod ta og draw sa 3 dimension. So kung na ako'y 3 dimension, so na ako'y x1, x2, x3, and ang isa ka coordinate is na ako'y x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. Okay? So I have two different coordinate system. Na ako'y x1 prime ang isa ug x2 prime nga coordinate system. So na ako'y duha, no? Nakoy duha. So this is my x1, x2 coordinate system. Coordinate systems. Coordinate systems. By the way, para di ta maglibog later, I will denote coordinate systems as x1, x2, x3. So dili na tong xyz ha. Take note ha, sa una, mugamit ta og xyz nga coordinate, sakto? But in this subject, sa book ni Marion, actually kay, ang gigamit nila, instead of using XYZ, Marion use x1, x2, and x3. Nakuha. So x1 means your x-axis, x2 means y-axis, and then x3 means to the z-axis. Okay? Para later, masulat na to siya nganong gi x1, x2, x3 ni Marion ang mga coordinate system, because later mo gamit ta og notation, we call this one as summation notation, para kung taas kay mo ang equation, pwede rin nimo sa isulat into one term lang in summation notation. Okay? So that is why nigamit siya og not xy but x1, x2, and x1 prime and x2 prime. Nakuha. So I have take note ha, na ako'y duha ka coordinate system. The x1, x2 nga coordinate kaning kani. Basta kanino? Kaning this one is my x1, x2, and then ang isa ka coordinate system is na ako'y x1 prime o x2 prime. So ang gibuhat lang diari is only you just rotate. So this is my first coordinate, my one coordinate system. The other coordinate system is just girotate lang nimo ang x1 axis by some angle theta. Okay? Girotate lang nimo siya by some angle theta. So nana ko'y duha ka different coordinate system. The x1, x2 coordinate system and the x1 prime, x2 prime coordinate system. Take note, there is a relationship between primes and kaning unprime nga axis. Tama? Ang ilang relationship is only this, kaning girotate nimo ang prime kay kanino? Kaning mga prime coordinate system. Okay? Girotate lang nimo ang prime coordinate system at some angle theta sa gikan sa imong unprime nga coordinate system. So I have two. So question here is, what will be the value of P in x1, x2 coordinate system, and what will be the value of point P in x1 prime, x2 prime? Okay? So ang atong pangitaon is this: what will be the point x1, x2? X2 rata tama, no? Kay 2 dimension lang man sana eh. We will generalize this later to x3. So what will be the point P with respect to x1, x2 coordinate system? Also, unsa si point P with respect to x1 prime and x2 prime. So muna ito ang pangitaon. Muna ko ingon, no? Lahi ang value ni point P sa lahi nga coordinate system. Nakuha. So lahi si P in x1, x2 nga coordinate system, lahi pud si P in x1 prime, x2 prime nga coordinate system. So what is x? So ang question is, again, there is a relationship between prime and unprime nga axis due to this angle theta. Okay? So imo lang kuna koy ingani, if I have this coordinate system, ang imong gibuhat, so this is my x1 and my x2, right? Ang imong gibuhat or ang atong gibuhat is girotate lang nimo si x1 prime. This is my x1 prime. Girotate mo siya at some angle theta. So kung rotate ning x1 prime, rotate mo siya dire dapat, no? So this is my x2 prime. So if this is theta, this is also equal to theta. Okay? So question is, what is x1 prime and x2 prime in terms of x1 and x2, and of course this theta. So si theta may nag-connect between primes and unprime nga coordinate system. So question is, using trigonometry, this is just basic trigonometry, ma-solve na to or ma-derive na to si x1 prime ug si x2 prime in terms of x1 and x2. Notice in our figure, nantahan mo ang figure, no? pila ni si x1 prime. This is kanino? Si x1 prime is kani. Using trigonometry lang, no? So this is your first assignment. You will derive the expression of x1 prime and x2 prime in terms of x1 and x2. So ihatag na ko daan, pero kamoy mo derive asa to gikan nga equation nako. Using trigonometry lang, no? As you notice, this one is my x1 prime. Muna si x1 prime kaning green. Muna ang length ni x1 prime. Tama? Diri man mo man si x1 prime, no? Si x2 prime is this. Kani? This one is x2 prime. Okay? So i-denote na ko ni siya as this one is my x1 prime and this one is my x2 2 prime. Now, pila ni nga length? Again, using trigonometry, pila ni nga length kaning green nga line? Pila na nga length in terms of x1? Man si x1. Muna si x1. This is x1. Okay? This is x1. This is x1 and my x2 is this one. This kani nga length wala nila ang color red na lang. Ayan na lang. Lang. This is my x2 x2 lang. This is my x2. Okay. So, your first assignment is this. Derive using basic trigonometry, okay? Using basic trigonometry, derive kaning green nga length x1 prime in terms of kaning orange x1 and x2 nga mga values. And of course the data. So nasa relationship ang data, no? Ug ang x1 ug x2 nga mga length. Okay? So lantaw nimo makita man nimo, I think maklaro man nimo, no? Na yung mga dotted lines using trigonometry. So katuwa makuha nimo ning kani nga length. Wait. Makuha nimo ning nga length using SOHCAHTOA, no? Kani makuha nimo ning nga length using SOHCAHTOA, then plus nimo ani. Plus nimo ana makuha nimo ang x1 prime. Okay? So I think klaro ra ba? Maklaro ra nino, masolve ra ninyo ni. So this is your first assignment. Derive x1 prime, x2 prime in terms of x1, x2, and theta. I will give you the answer. Can be written as x1 cosine of theta plus x2 sine of theta. So this will be my x1 prime. Based from this figure here, masolve nimo or makuha nako nga si x1 prime is equal to x1 cosine theta plus x2 sine theta. Again, this is basic derivation using trigonometry. And si x2 prime is equal to x1 cosine, di dapat cosine, so minus x1 sine of theta plus x2 cosine of theta. So this is my so this is the relationship. These are the relationship between x primes, the primes coordinate system, and the unprimed coordinate system. Okay? So si x1 prime is equal to this, and si x2 prime is equal to minus x1 sine. Minus this minus x1 sine theta plus x2 cosine theta. And this is coordinate. This equation is called the coordinate transformation. because you are equating na ako'y duha ka different coordinate system, and then you derive the relationship between these two. So from x1, x2 nga coordinate system, you transform it to another coordinate system nga x1 prime of x2 prime. So we call this one actually as coordinate transformation. I-transform nimo ang x1, x2 into x prime, x1 prime, and x2 prime. So we call this one as coordinate transformation. So based from this one, okay, based from these two equations, we will now define direction cosides, okay? Again, this is your assignment, assignment. First, i-post na ko ni siya sa Google Classroom. Assignment number 1, derive using basic trigonometry. Anas na mo tag trigonometry, no? Masanas, balik-balik ka naman trigonometry, no? Anas na po tag calculus, tama? So,
Sir,
yes?
mag-drawing rami ana or jud?
Mag-derive mo, yes. Mag-drawing, then you have to derive. Based from that drawing, i-derive niyo siya using that drawing. Okay, tama.
Okay. Parehas.
Okay. Okay. Okay, based from these two equations, later we will generalize this into three dimensions. Okay, nanatay x3 nga side. Let us introduce the following notation based from this. Let us introduce the following notations. So we have this notation x1 prime x1. Okay, so take note this is just a notation. X1 prime comma x1. This is a notation for the angle between x1 prime and x1. Take note of this. Angle, kaning close parenthesis x1 prime comma x1 is a notation for the angle between x1 prime and x1. Nakuha. So meaning kaning nasa parenthesis is basically your theta. Sakto ba? Kung lantaw nimo ang figure, the x1 prime and x1 comma x1 is the angle between x1 kani isulat na to balik para di ta maglibog dira, no? Atong i-kuan balik. Okay. Okay. So ito, x1 prime comma x1 is the notation for the angle between x1 prime and x1. So as you notice, this is my x1 prime. Okay. This is my x1 prime and this is my x1. So this notation is just equal to theta. Sakto ba? As you notice here, kung based from the figure, the angle between x1 and x1 prime is this one, and this one is just equal to theta. So basically kaning nasa parenthesis is just equal to theta. Pero gi-change lang ito ang notation para somewhat ma-appreciate na later nganong i-change pa na to ang notation sa angle niya, no? So in general, so pila gali ni based from this one, x1 prime x1 is just equal to theta. Nako, is just equal to theta. How about this? What is x2 prime x1? Pila ni siya? Sa kani, x2 prime x1 is the angle between x2 prime and x1. So this is my x1 and this is my x2 prime. So ang angle nila kani, the angle between x2 prime and x1 is pila na koy 90 plus theta. Sakto? Tama? This is 90 plus theta. Tama ba? The angle between x2 prime axis and x1 axis is na ko'y 90 man no? Plus na lang ako og theta, so therefore na ko'y 90 plus theta. So dali lang no, kana lang ato ang lang taon lang nato ang figure, kuhaan na to ang angle between the unprime and prime nga mga coordinates, then you can solve for the angle. Okay? In general, we can generalize this into this expression. In general, the parenthesis xi ay na gamit ha, xi prime, xj. Okay? Take note, maguna ang prime. Okay? Maguna ang prime na coordinates. Okay? The angle, the close parenthesis xi prime, xj is the angle between x I prime axis and xj axis. So, kana lang yung tao, no? The angle between x prime, xi prime axis and xj axis where I is runs from 1 to 3, no? Si I and j where I and j runs from 1, 2, and so on. Okay? 1, 2, 3 to the end. Okay? To the end. So, what will happen to my coordinate transformation if nana ko'y kaning notation nga kaning mga close parentheses? So, this becomes, what will happen to the coordinate transformation? Yeah. What will happen to coordinate transformation? Sa ito, mahimo siyang, so, in terms of xi prime, xj, si x1 prime na karon, sa ito si x1 prime na ko x1 cosine theta, x1 cosine theta plus x2 sine of theta becomes na ko x1 cosine of so ini cosine of what is theta? This is, I think, x1 prime, x1, tama? Okay. Plus x2 sine of x1 prime, x1. Okay? So, mahimo sa nga na, instead of theta, mo gamit ko og another notation for the theta, for the angle theta. Now, so nganong gingana, it's because we will also define another set of numbers. Okay? We also define another set of numbers. We also define another set of numbers. This one, the lambda ni sa I j. Okay? We call this one actually as direction cosines. Okay? The lambda ij is called the direction cosine, which is equal to cosine of xi prime. Take note, xi. Maguna si prime, take note ha. Xi prime x xj. Okay? Take note, this one, kani siya is your angle. Sakto? This one is your angle. And this, i-box na ko. Okay? This is called the direction cosines. Okay? We call this one the lambda ij. The lambda ij is called the direction cosine. Okay? So, from the figure actually, balik na tong figure na pod. Okay, balik na tong figure. Makuha ta og mga lambda ij ani no? Natay upat ka lambda ij ani because this is in 2 dimension. makuha nato ang mga lambda ij's ani. So therefore from the figure based from the figure we can solve for lambda 11. Unsa kini lambda 11 gani? Lambda 11 is nakoy lambda when I is 1 and j is also 1. So nakoy lambda 11 is equal to cosine of x1 prime x1. Sakto ba? When your I is 1, j is also 1. So nakoy when sa direction cosine, nakoy cosine of xi prime and xj. So therefore I is 1, j is also 1. So I have this lambda 11 is equal to cosine of x1 prime x1. This is equal to cosine theta. Sakto ba? Because the angle between x1 and x1 prime is this one. The angle between x1 prime and x1 is theta. So nakoy lambda 11 is equal to cosine theta. How about lambda 12? Lambda 12. So this is when I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 2. So we have cosine of x1 prime x2. Tama ba? Sakto ba? When I is equal to 1, j is equal to 2. So nakoy angle between x1 prime and x2. Tama ba? So nakoy angle between x1 prime and x2. Pila mo na? Pila angle sa x1 prime ug x2? Kani? Muna no? Pila mo na siya? This is 90 minus theta. Sakto ba? So nakoy cosine. We have cosine of 90 minus theta. Sakto? The angle between x1 prime and x2 is 90 minus theta. And take note, this is a complementary angle. You can also write this as sine of theta. Sakto ba? Cosine 90 minus theta is just equal to sine theta. Sakto, using cos minus sine. Tama ba? So the lambda 12 is equal to sine of theta. Sakto ra no? Kaya nga no ito? Cosine 90 minus theta, this is theta, is equal to cos 90 cos theta plus sine 90 sine theta. This one is 0. 0 na siya. So sine 90 is 1. So this is equal to sine of theta. So therefore, cos 90 minus theta is sine theta. How about lambda 21? Unsa ini lambda 21 gani? Lambda 21 is cosine. Sige daw, unsa ning lambda 21? Sana ako pagsulat si lambda 21? Kimno? Kimno? Are you there? Hello? Hello? Wala si Kimno? Sige, si Unabia. What is lambda 21? How will you write lambda 21?
X2 prime and X1.
Okay, so x2 prime and x1. The angle between, sa gani? Angle between x2 prime and x1. Pila man na siya? Nakoy cosine of
90.
90 ra?
Plus
Mo man ni si x2 prime.
theta.
Mo ni si x1 plus theta. Okay, so nakoy 90 plus theta. And I think this is equal to negative sine of theta. Negative sine of theta. Kay ngano gali ni kay base using cos minus sine. Cos minus sine. Makuha nimo nga si lambda 21. The cosine 90 plus theta is equal to minus sine of theta. So the lambda 21 is equal to minus sine of theta. How about lambda 22? Lambda 22, dali lang, no? Cosine of Aiko, unsa na yung lambda 22?
X2 prime.
X2
Tama,
prime.
X2 prime.
comma x2. Okay, so this is actually equal to cosine of the angle between x2 prime and x2 is just theta. Sakto? Yani?
Yes, sir.
This is theta. So this is equal to theta. Okay, so we now know direction cosines. We now know lambda 1, 1, lambda 1, 2, lambda 2, 1, and lambda 2, 2. And that is equal to cosine theta, sine theta, minus sine theta, and cosine theta. So we can write lambda ij, lambda, you can write lambda in terms of matrix. Okay, pwede na ko siya masulat as matrix as lambda 1, 1, lambda 1, 2, lambda 2, 1, and lambda 2, 2, which is equal to lambda 1, 1 is cosine theta. This one is sine of theta. Lambda 2, 1 is minus sine of theta. And lambda 2, 2 is equal to cosine of theta. Okay? So, nganong nagsulat ko, nganong nag-define ko another notation, it's because para masulat na ko siya ang akong expression into matrix. Okay? Para masulat na ko siya in terms of matrix. So, in 2 dimension, this is now my direction cosines actually. In 2 dimension, my direction cosine is given by this equation here. So later, in 3 dimension, atong i-generalize this into 3 dimension later. So this is my direction cosines. So therefore, we can write, kanibitaw ato ang coordinate transformation. Thus, we can write coordinate transformations as the x1 prime and x2 prime can be written in terms of lambda ij's. Okay? Pwede na ako masulat ang x1 prime o x2 prime in terms of lambda ij's. So, unsa ito? x1 prime is equal to x1 cosine of theta plus x2 sine of theta. So, pwede na ko siya isulat as x1. Ang cosine of theta is lambda 11. Lambda 11 plus x2 na ko lambda, I think it's 1, 2. Okay, so therefore, x1 prime is equal to x1 lambda 11 plus x2 lambda 12. How about my x2 prime? X2 prime is minus x1 sine of theta plus x2 cosine of theta. So this can be written in terms of lambdas. Minus sign is lambda 21. So na ko'y x1 lambda 21 plus x2 lambda 22. So my x1 prime, x2 prime is in terms of lambdas, in terms of direction cosines, na ko'y x2 lambda 22. So makita ninyo ang pattern. Why is it na ako siyang si Marion kay iyahang sulat in terms of 1, 2, 3? It's because as you notice here, pwede na ko sa isulat in terms of summation. Nasa pattern, no? Nakoy 1, 1, nakoy 1, 2, nakoy 2, 1, and nakoy 2, 2. Later, makita na to na you can write this one. Instead nga, sulaton mo sa taas kayo, pwede na ko sa isulat into a summation notation. Okay? So, I have x1 prime and x2 prime in terms of lambdas. We call this one as direction cosines. Now, this is in 2 dimension. We can extend this in 3 dimension. We can extend in 3 dimension. Napoy, x1 prime can be written as unahan na ako si lambdas, okay? Dire kay nag-una man si x1, no? Sige lang. Unahan ako si lambda 11. Wait. Because lambdas are just numbers. Okay? Cosine na sila, cosine sa angle, so numbers lang na sila. No? So ako lambda 11 x1 plus lambda 12 x2 plus lambda 13 x3. Again, this is in 3 dimension. So na ko x1, x2, x3. And also, na ko x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. Okay? So, we will transform the prime coordinate system into, we will transform the unprime coordinate system into prime coordinate system. So, na ko x1, x2, x3 into x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. x2 prime is equal to lambda 21 x1 plus lambda 22 x2 plus lambda 23 x3. Nakita niyo yung pattern? And x3 prime is equal to lambda 31 x1 plus lambda 32 x2 plus lambda 33 x3. Dire naman tatama na to, no? Atong giderive na to is kanilang tama. Tama? Mumani siya katong in 2 dimensions. Sakto? Kani? The lambda, the x1 prime is lambda 11 x1, lambda 12 x2. Kanila atong giderive. But we can extend this in 3 dimension writing the primes in terms of unprime ng mga coordinate system. Okay. So this is now the coordinate transformation in 3 dimension. Taas kayo siya, no? Pero, pwede na ko sa isulat in summation notation. I can write this in summation notation. So, muna nakalindot sa summation. Kay gamay, taas kayo mo hang equations, masulat lang mo sa into one simple equation. In summation notation, you can write this as, kabalo matag summation, no? Sakto ba? Sakto, no? In summation notation, we can write this as x I prime equal to summation of lambda ij x xj. Okay? Where j is equal to runs from 1 to 3. This is because this is in 3 dimensions, so ang summation is from 1 to 3. So nakoy j is equal to 1 to I day, sorry. This is I. This is I equals 1, 2, and 3. So when I is equal to 1, makuha nimo ni first equation. This is when I is equal to 1. When I is equal to 2, makuha nimo ning x2 prime. And when I is equal to 3, makuha nimo ang x3 prime. Nakuha. Si j kay i-trans from 1 to 3 gihapon. So nakoy when j is equal to 1, so nakoy lambda 11 x1. Tama ba? Sakto ba? Makuha. Nakita ninyo ang pattern. Ngano nasulat na ko sa into this summation notation. Para ram siguro, no? Nakoy when I is equal to 1, so nakoy x1 prime, which is the equation 1. This is the first equation. x1 prime is equal to lambda 11 x1. Kani lambda ij. I is 1, j is 1 una, xj is x1. So nakoy lambda 11 x1 plus lambda 12 x2 plus lambda 13 x3. So you can write this into, ang tulo ka equation nimo is pwede nimo siya isulat into one equation using summation notation. And we call this what? Unsa kay ni? We call this as the coordinate transformation. Meaning, i-transform nimo ang mga xj's into xi prime. Okay? Katong unsa itong mga primes gani? Ang primes kay katong gi-rotate nimo ang angle. Okay? Gi-rotate nimo siya with some angle theta. And the angle is the lambda ij's is called the direction cosines. The lambda ij's, lambda ij is called the direction cosines. Okay. Now, isulat na otro, no? So this is my coordinate transformation. This is now my, in summation notation, this is now my coordinate. Transformation from x to x prime. Sakto? Uh, from x to x prime. Okay? So, gikan sa katong mga x1, x2, x3. Kanino? Kani siya? From x1, x2, x3 to x1 prime, x2 prime, x3 prime. Dapat tay another equation nga bali, no? Pwede po we call this one as inverse transformation. The inverse transformation, meaning gikan ka sa prime, padulong ka sa unprime, no? The inverse transformation, gikan from x1 prime, x2 prime, x3 prime, padulong ka sa x1, x2, x3. Gaya na, bali man to, no? Gikan sa unprime, padulong sa prime, kani, the inverse transformation, gikan sa prime, padulong sa unprime, is this, it is equal to xi, this is equal to summation of lambda ji x j prime, where j is equal to 1, runs from 1 to 3, where I runs from 1, 2, and 3. So, muna ang inverse transformation. From x prime, padulong ka sa unprime nga coordinates, masolve gyapon nimo using this equation, inverse transformation. Notice, take note, ang imuhang lambda na karon is lambda, as you notice here, di na sa lambda ij, right? Ang inverse transformation niya is bali na iyang form. It is not lambda ij but lambda ji. Okay? Nakuha. Kung sa ining lambda ji gani, so kung kog lambda ji, instead nga mo man ang gamit nato sa lambda ij, no? Take note, lambda ij is equal to lambda 11, lambda 12, lambda 12, lambda 13, lambda 21, lambda 22, lambda 23, lambda 31, 32, and 33. Si lambda ji, kay balihon lang nimo, no? Nakoy lambda 11. This one is lambda 21 ani. Lambda 31. Okay? This one is lambda 12. Lambda 22 and lambda 32. This one is lambda 13, lambda 23, and lambda 33. Okay? The lambda ij is kani 1, 2, 3 diri padulong sa horizontal. Kaya sakto? Ji is 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. Okay. Balihon lang nimo ang mga index niya. So take note of that. So please i-master niyo ang summation notation because later if in our topic sa triple products, mugamit ta og another symbol, we call it one as Levi-Civita. Levi-Civita. And Levi-Civita is all about summations. Okay? AIJK. Okay? In 3 dimension. Later, we will use this one to prove some triple products later. So sa una, sa atong 41 kay kung maggamit ta or kung mag-dot product ta or mag-cross product ta sa duha ka vectors, mugamit ta atong component method which is taas-taas siya gamay. But if you use Levi-Civita symbol, dali ra na to siya ma-solve or dali ra na to ma-prove ang mga equations for triple products if we use the Levi-Civita symbol. So dapat dapat master na ta aning dito master. Dapat familiar ta aning summations. Okay, later kay bali-balihon na to ning JI. Bali-balihon na tong IJK nga mga indices, mga daming indices sa itong summation. kung bali-baliho na to na dapat kabaluta unsay mga uh, notations or forms or mga protocols how to change the indices. Okay? So x prime to x na ko'y coordinate transformation ngayon nga ni. Okay? Okay. Okay ra? Sayang ra, no? By the way, this lambda ij's, again, this is called direction cosines, or we also call this one as transformation matrix. Okay? Kani mga lambda ij's is also called it is called direction cosines, and we can also call this one as transformation matrix. Okay? Transformation matrix. Kaya diri man magbase ang unsaon pag-transform nimo ang usa ka coordinate system to another coordinate system. Okay? So we also call this one as transformation matrix. Okay. So di pa kayo na ito ma-appreciate. Okay, pa tayo example, no? So now we will give an example how to transform coordinates from one coordinate system to another coordinate system. Say for example, dito magkuha sa kuan pa rin na to kung ano, no? For example,
clear frame na.
Take example number 1, no? Example number 1. Okay. So I have point P. So na ko example nga, a point P is represented in the unprime nga coordinate system, the x1, x2, x3 as 2, 1, 3. So it means that your from here, given si x1 is given x2 is 1 and x3 is 3. So given na siya, no? Givening ako ang x1, x2, and x3. Now, so this is in x1, x2, x3 nga coordinate system. Now, in another coordinate system, the same point is represented as x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. So meaning ani kay wala pa ta kabalo, ni x1 prime, si x2 prime, o ni x3 prime. No? Muna ang problem. We don't know x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. Muna itong solvon. Solvon na to si x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. Where, take note na sa condition na ang yung condition is where x2 na axis has been rotated toward x3. Take note of this, ha. Si x2 daw kuno aman si x2 ani. Kanino? Muna si x2. Si x2 has been rotated toward x3. So this is my x3. So ni-rotate si x2 padulong dito. Padulong ni x3. So meaning, yeah, toward x3 around the x1 axis by an angle of 30 degrees. So ang angle niya is 30 degrees. Meaning, kung imo ang buhaton ko na ko'y tulo ka stick, ang imong gibuhat is gi-rotate nimo na yung x1 axis nimo pa na. Tama ba? So wala nag-change si x1. So gi-rotate nimo si x1 pa counterclockwise with some angle 30 degrees. So muna ang point dira. X2 has been rotated toward x3 around the x1 axis. Meaning si x1 axis nimo kay gi-rotate niyo padulong dira. So ang nag-change lang is the x2 and x3. So mahitabo nga si x2 prime which has some angle 30 degrees above the x2. And if this is 30 degrees, this is also equal to 30 degrees dira. Okay? So depende kung asa i-rotate, no? Around, say for example, if it rotates around the x2 axis, meaning kanina pwede mo i-rotate dira. Okay? Okay ra, no? So nako nga nga problem. Question, find the rotation matrix. Unsa ining rotation matrix gani? Find the rotation matrix, meaning akong pangitaon is ang lambdas. Okay? So kaning rotation matrix kani find the rotation matrix. This one is basically the lambda ij. What is the lambda ij? And what is x1, x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime? Dali lang, no? Dali na ba? Generally, no? I have the equation for coordinate transformations, and that is equal to summation of gani. I have this equation. So once na ko yung aling equation, first na ko solve is the lambda ij's. Para once masolve na ko si lambda ij's, masolve na ko ang x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. Okay? So dali lang, no? Dali ra kayo ning siya, no? Dali ra ba? Yeah, dali ra ni. Na koy what is lambda ij? Okay? So kuhaon nimo pila ka book lambda ij na koy 9 because this is in 3 dimension. Lambda 1 1 1 2 1 3 up to lambda 3 3. So first, what is lambda 1 1? This is cosine. Dili na ko ibutang sa dili lang. So lambda first na to kuhaon is lambda ij's. Okay? What is this is equal to lambda 1 1, lambda 1 2, lambda 1 3, lambda 1 2, lambda 2 2, 2 1, sorry. This is 2 1. Lambda 2 3, lambda 3 1, 3 2, and 3 3. What is lambda 1 1? Pangit naman pula. Lambda 1 1. Basic lang, no? Lambda 1 1 is cosine of x1 prime x1. Tama? So this is equal to cosine of what is the angle between x1 prime and x1? J Galos. What is the angle between x1 prime and x1? Based on this figure. J Galos? Napa si J Galos? Dira? Hello? 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 Wala?
Gi-chat, sir.
Nag-chat siya. Naman tabi. 90? Okay. 90 ba? Tanawin mo, the angle between x1 and x1 prime, kanino? Wala man nag-rotate ang x1. Sakto? Gi-rotate mo siya around that axis, so there is no angle between, the angle between x1 and x1 prime is 0. Sakto? Kay mo orang gyapon si x1, wala man siya nag-change. Muna si x1, mo po na si x1 prime. So the angle between these two is 0. Sakto? So this one is 0. So therefore cosine 0 is 1. So nana ko answer ani. Nana ko answer sa lambda 1 1. Lambda 1 2, this is equal to cosine of x1 prime and x2. This is equal to cosine of what is the angle between x1 prime and x2? Julius. Yeah, sakto si Arnel, no? 0. Julius, hello? What is the angle between x1 prime and x2?
90 degrees.
Okay, 90 degrees. So this is cosine 90 degrees. So therefore, this is equal to 0. So therefore, 0 na siya. Okay? Dali lang, no? Tama ba? Pero wala natin time. Okay.
Hindi lang time.
Ha?
Basta ako may klase.
So we have
Next time.
x1 prime, x3. Pila ni? Cosine of the angle between x1 prime and x3 is pila? Juben. Pila ang angle between x1 prime and x3? Between x1 prime and x3. Si Juben, wala no?
Sir, na-solve na di ay namo ni siya na problem.
Okay, nasolve na yun eh. Mayo, ano?
Yes.
Ano yung nasolve ni sa?
Mathematical physics.
Okay, so, dali rin kayo na ito ni, so nakoy, cosine of, I think this is
90.
cosine of 90. So this is 0. 0 ni siya, no? So nasolve na nato, nasolve na ninyo ni, so masolve na nimo nita ng lambda 33, isulat na lang ako, no? So nako 100 0 0.866 0.5 0 and minus 0.5. This one is 0.866. Basta mo itong pattern, no? The angle cosine, the direction cosines, paano nimo ang angle between these kaning sa mga axis nimo, no? Sa primes and unprime ng mga axis. So we have this rotational matrix. And from this, masolve na ko actually ang x1 prime, x2 prime, and x3 prime. So na ko'y so automatic na siya, no? Nakuha rin yung mga tanan. So the x1 primes, so what is primes? Kani? One at a time. Okay. Masolve na ko ni, no? Using this x1 prime, lambda 11 x1 plus lambda 12 x2 plus lambda 13 x3. I think this is 1 times 2 given si x1, no? Nakoy 0 times 1 plus 0 times 3. So I have 2 x2 prime. Dali lang, no? 1, 2, 2, 1, sorry. 2, 1 x1 plus lambda 22 x2 plus lambda 23 x3. Input na mo values. We have 2.37 and then the x3 prime is lambda 231 x1 plus lambda 32 x2 plus lambda 33 x3, which is equal to 2.10. Okay, and that's it. This one, in terms of x1 prime, x2 prime, this is equal to 2.37 and 2.10. Okay. And dire tataman sa, no? Dire lang sa tataman dayon. So later, we will now go to vector operation. So dito na lang tayo magamit itong mga Levi-Civita na symbol and so on. How to do dot product, how to do cross product, how to do triple products, scalar and vector triple products and so on. In terms of Levi-Civita nga symbol. Okay? Attendance. Wait lang sa taha. Ano ba absent? Di. Absent. Wala absent, no? Okay. Arnel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so wala absent. 13 lang na sila. 13 lang na sila. Okay. So, see you. Wala question. Okay ra? Again, your assignment.
None, sir.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I-post na ko ang assignment today.
Deadline,
See
sir.
you. Yes?
Deadline.
Friday. This Friday. Okay. See you on Friday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ano?
Ang board, diba? Basta ang clear frame,
Dili, next ninyo.